Isang magandang araw po sa ating lahat. So bago po tayo magpatuloy sa aking video, ay nais ko po munang kumustahin ang bawat isa sa inyo. Sana nasa mabuti po tayong kalagayan despite of the pandemic that we are facing right now. Sana po wag nating isiping sumuko, bagkus piliin po nating magpatuloy sa buhay. Kasi po naniniwala po ako na may awa po ang Diyos. Malalampasan din po natin ang lahat ng pagsubok sa ating buhay, lalong-lalo na ang COVID-19 na ating kinakaharap ngayon. So, maging prayerful lang po tayo, laging sumunod sa mga health protocols, lalong-lalo na yung pagsusot ng face mask, face shield, at pag-maintain ng physical distancing. And of course, syempre, huwag nating pabayaan ang ating mga sarili, panatilihin natin itong malakas at malayo sa anumang sakit. Okay, so mag-umpisa na tayo. So, welcome sa ating first session about sa chess. So, kung bago ka pa lang sa aking channel, o kaya napadpad ka sa aking video, ay mas maganda na mag-subscribe ka sa aking YouTube channel at pakihit na rin ang notification bell para sa mas marami pang video. So bago tayo magpatuloy, nais ko lamang ibahagi bakit nga ba chess yung napili kong content. Ang dami namang ibang topics, pero bakit chess? Unang-una, chess ang aking napili kasi hilig ko ang paglalaro ng chess. Simula nung nag-lockdown, nagkaroon ako ng time para mag-aral ng mga chess lessons para mas i-enhance pa yung skill ko sa paglalaro. Kasi nga, nagsimula nung lockdown, hindi na natin nagagawa yung mga nakagawi ang mga sports like basketball, volleyball, badminton, at iba pa. So, yun, nagkaroon ako ng time na mag-aral ng chess at marami akong natutunan. So, ang chess ay hindi siya sa laro lang o kaya hindi lang laro ang chess. Kumbaga, maraming mga lessons sa chess na pwede mong i-apply sa buhay. Una, isa sa mga lesson ay bago ka gumawa ng move, pag-isipan mo muna ito. Okay? So, at marami pang iba. And then, pangalawa, naisipan kong gumawa ng chess video kasi gusto kong i-share yung aking mga natutunan sa chess. Gusto kong turuan yung mga tao na gustong matuto maglaro ng chess. So, yun po yung mga rason kung bakit gumagawa po ako ng chess video. So, yun, ulit welcome po sa first session ng ating chess lesson. So in this video, tuturo ko sa inyo yung basics of chess. The pieces and initial positions, the pieces and their moves. Okay? So mag-start tayo sa basics of chess. So sabi nga nila, bago mo matutunan yung mas advanced lessons sa anumang uri ng field, kailangan mo munang malaman yung mga basic nito. So ano nga ba yung basics of chess? Ano nga bang ibig sabihin ng chess? Chess is a recreational and competitive board game played between two players. So it is a competitive board game because in playing chess, you are competing with your opponent. There is a competition in playing chess. Yung aim ng bawat player ay manalo. The two sides in chess are white and black. The white player plays with the light-colored pieces. The black player plays with the black-colored pieces. So as you can see on the screen, there are light colored pieces and then there are black colored pieces. So in this side is what we call the black side, and then this is the white side. The chessboard is the battlefield for your game. So, ito yung tinatawag na battlefield, yung chessboard. The board is made up of 64 squares arranged 8 by 8. So, the dimensions of the chessboard is 8 by 8. And kung bibilangin mo lahat ng squares sa chessboard, ito ay 64 squares. And na-divide ito sa 32 light squares and 32 dark squares. The chess pieces are always set out the same way at the start of the game. The two players move alternately. If it is your turn to move, you move. Passing is not allowed. So sa paglalaro ng chess, the two players move alternately. Ibig sabihin, pag nag-move yung white, kailangan mag-move din yung black. So, sa rule ng chess, ang unang mag-move ay always white. So, they move alternately. So, pag tapos na nag-move yung white, kinakailangan na mag-move na yung black. Sabi nga, passing is not allowed. Di mo naman siya pwedeng sabihin na ayaw mo mag-move. Ibig sabihin, pag ayaw mo na mag-move, ibig sabihin, surrender ka na. Kasi ayaw mo na mag-move. Okay? So, dapat, two players move alternately. The chessboard should be arranged in such a way that each player has a white square in the corner at his right. Okay. So maraming mga beginner players ang nagkakamali dito. So sa basic of chess, kinakailangan na white square yung nasa right ng player. Okay, tandaan. Always white square yung nasa right ng player. The chess pieces move in different ways. So yung mga chess pieces natin ay magkakaiba yung movement. So mamaya ituturo ko sa inyo yung movement ng bawat pieces. The ultimate aim of the game is to deliver checkmate, the equivalent of capturing the opposing king. So yun yung pinaka-aim ng game, is to deliver checkmate. Once na na-deliver mo yung checkmate sa game, ibig sabihin, panalo ka na sa laro. So, kung hindi man na-deliver yung checkmate ng bawat player, then it is a draw. Sometimes neither can break the other's defenses and the game ends as a draw. So yun na. Walang nanalo, walang natalo. Draw ang tawag dun. So that is all about the basic of chess. Next, the pieces and initial positions. Each player in chess starts with an identical army of 16 pieces. So ito yung isa sa mga importanteng malaman ng mga players kung paano i-set up yung chessboard. Okay? So the rooks take the corner squares. So una, yung rook natin ay nasa gilid, corner ng chessboard. Sinusundan ito ng knight. The knights stand by their rooks along the same rank. And then next sa knight ay bishop. So kung mapapansin nyo, yung bishop natin ay dark and light bishops. And then next sa bishop ay queen. The queen is your most powerful piece. So kinakailangan na ingatan mo ang iyong queen. So may tinatawag na rule of thumb sa pag-setup ng mga pyesa. The queens always start on the square of the same shade. The white queen starts on a light square. So kung mapapansin nyo, yung white queen natin ay nasa light square. Ganon din sa black queen, nasa dark square. And then next sa queen ay king. And then the pawns take their pose on the front line. So yung 8 pawns natin, 8 pawns sa black, 8 pawns sa white, ay nasa front line. So ganun lang po kadali mag-set up ng chessboard with the chess pieces. So ulitin ko, kinakailangan na sa pag-set up ng chessboard, laging white square yung nasa right corner ng player. Okay? Ganun din sa black. So let's move on to the elements of the board. So, may tinatawag na ranks. Ranks, sabi dito, these are lines across the board. So, itong elements of chess na to ay magagamit nyo sa pagbabasa ng mga chess books. So, para ma-familiarize kayo sa mga terms. So, ito yung tinatawag na ranks. Okay? Ito yung horizontal line sa chessboard. We have first rank, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and 8th rank. So there are 8 ranks in the chessboard. Next, files. These are the lines running up the board. So kanina sa ranks, ito yung horizontal. Ngayon naman sa files, ito yung running up or the vertical. Yan. A file, B file, C file, D file, E file, F file, G file, and H file. Okay? So now let's move on to the pieces and their moves. The chess pieces are colored light and dark and are designated as black and white. So pag yung mga piyesa ay light yung kulay, ang tawag dito ay white. Pero any pieces that are dark in color, it is designated as black. So first is the rook. The rooks take the corner squares. So paano nga ba yung movement ng rook? So the rook has the freedom to move any number of squares, but only in straight lines up and down or side to side. So kahit saang square dito, basta dito lang na area, up and down and side to side. Ganon din sa black. Okay, up and down, side to side. The rook can't move to a square occupied by its own pieces, nor can it jump over the piece and move to any of the other squares along the rank. So hindi pwedeng mag-move yung rook natin dito kasi nga na-occupy siya ng kanyang sariling piece. So hindi pwede, hindi rin siya pwede na mag-jump dito. Okay? But the white rook can't move beyond the black rook along that rank, but it can capture it by removing the piece and taking its place. So, pag sarili mong piyesa, hindi mo siya pwedeng palitan. Pero pag piyesa ng kalaban, pwede mo siyang palitan yung pesto niya sa pamamagitan ng pag-capture dito. Okay. So the value of the rook is 5 points. Strengths: the rook is strong in open positions and endgames. So ibig sabihin ng open positions, kapag wala nang nakaharang sa lalakaran ng rook. Weaknesses: the rook does not appear. Weaknesses: the rook does not operate so well when position is blocked. So pag naharangan yung dadaanan ng rook, yun po yung weakness ng rook. Next is the bishop. A bishop can move any number of squares, but only along the diagonals and until another piece gets in its way. So yan. Kaya nga sinabi na ang bishop ay ang pinaka-loyal na piyesa sa chess. Kasi kung saan siya nag-start, halimbawa sa light square lang siya, hanggang sa end ng game, light square pa rin siya dadaan. So hindi siya pumupunta sa kabilang square. I mean, hindi siya pumupunta sa dark square. Gaya nito, white bishop ay nasa white square lang yung dadaanan niya. Okay? The bishop attacks 13 squares and squares respectively. So when you put the bishop in the center, it will attack 13 squares. Yan. So when you put the bishop in the center, it attacks 13 squares. Yan. Ganun din sa dark square, or ganun din sa dark squared bishop. Unlike the rook, The attacking power of the bishop depends on where the piece is located on the chessboard, and ultimately its mobility or scope, which is simply the number of squares it can move to. The bishop attacks more squares in the center, so it's more powerful when positioned there. So mas malakas yung atake ng bishop kapag nasa center. Okay, yan. So, yan yung tinatawag na white bishop, and ito yung tinatawag na white square bishop and dark square bishop. The bishop also has a unique natural restrictions of its mobility. If it starts on a light square, it remains forever on the light squares. And if it begins the game on the dark square, it must always start on dark squares. So, ganun ka-loyal ang bishop. The bishop, like the rook, can be blocked by its own army. Yan, so nabablock yung dadaanan ng bishop sa kanyang sariling piyesa. A bishop blocked behind its pawn is often called a bad bishop. So, ito yung tinatawag ng bad bishop kapag na-restrict yung mobility ng bishop at naharangan ng kanyang sariling piyesa. Tawag dyan ay bad bishop. Enemy pawns can also be used to restrict the bishop's mobility. Ganoon din sa mga piyesa ng kalaban. However, restricting a bishop with pawns is not always effective because the bishop may be able to capture one of the enemy pawns. So, hindi siya palaging effective yung pag-block mo sa way ng bishop kasi nga pwede niya itong i-capture unless may support yung pawn mo. Okay? Yan. Pwede niyang i-capture. So, the value of the bishop is 3 points. The strengths: the bishop is strong in open positions on long diagonals. Weaknesses: the bishop struggles when the position is blocked or when it is restricted by pawns fixed on squares of the same color. So yun naman yung strengths and weaknesses ng bishop. Next is the queen. The most powerful piece is the queen. So the queen's moves are simply the combination of the rook's up and down, side-to-side moves, and the bishop's diagonals. So kung alam mo na yung moves ng bishop and rook, ay madali mo na lang matututunan ang move ng queen. Kasi nga, it is the combination of the rook's move and bishop's move. Basically, she can move any number of squares in any direction. Her only restriction is that she can jump over pieces. So the queen captures an opponent by taking the opponent's place on the board. To get an idea of the queen's strength, just put one on the middle on empty chessboard. Okay? Nilagay natin yung queen sa center ng chessboard. Tingnan nyo yung scope ng queen. Yung mga X mark na yan, yan yung pwedeng puntahan ng queen. Either up and down, side to side, or diagonal move. When placed in the center of the chessboard, the queen can cover 27 squares and can move in 8 different directions. Okay? So the value of the queen is 9 points. Strengths: the queen is strong in open positions and can be very powerful in an attack. Weaknesses: because the queen is so valuable, you must be careful not to expose her too much. So, kadalasan yung mga beginner players, nilalabas nila yung queen nila sa opening game, which is not highly advisable. So, you must be careful not to expose her too much. Next is the king. The king is not the most powerful piece, but he is the most important. Di man siya kasing lakas ng queen, pero siya yung pinaka-importanting piyesa sa laro. Losing the king means losing the game. So, pag na-checkmate ka na, ibig sabihin, talo ka na sa laro. The king can move one square in any direction. So, isang move lang siya. One square lang. Yan. The X marks the king's possible moves from his location. So, ito yung mga possible move, possible place, or possible location. So, there is no trading value of the king. Kasi nga siya yung pinaka-importanting piyesa, hindi mo siya pwedeng i-trade. Kasi pag nakapag-deliver ka ng checkmate sa king, ibig sabihin, panalo ka na. Okay? Strength: the king can be a very strong piece in the endgame, when there are fewer pieces on the board and less danger of snap checkmate. So, malakas ang king sa endgame. Weaknesses: in the opening and middle game, getting the king safe is very important. So, yun yung weaknesses ng king. So, opening and middle game ay siya yung target. Although pati sa endgame, pero mas delikado siya sa opening and middle game. So, kinakailangan na i-save mo palagi yung king mo. Next is the knight. The easiest way to understand the knight move is to think of it as an L shape in any direction. 2 squares up and 1 over. So, sa knight, 2 squares up, 1, 2, and then 1 over. So, mapapansin nyo, L shape siya. Either this side or either this side. Okay? Or 1 square down and 2 over, or any such combination. 1 square down and then 2 over. Okay, mapapansin nyo, L shape pa rin siya. Yun yung move ng knight, L shape. Keep in mind that the knight must always move to a different colored squares than the one it occupies. So, pag yung knight natin ay nasa light square, yung pupuntahan niya ay dark square. Okay? Kung nasa dark naman yung knight, yung pupuntahan niya ay white square. Okay? This alternation between colors is true of no other piece. If the knight is on a light square, it must move to a dark square and vice versa. Gaya ng sinabi ko, pag yung knight ay nasa light square, magmo-move siya doon sa dark square or vice versa. The knight is much more effective when centralized or positioned so that it occupies or attacks one of the 4 central squares. Okay? Mas powerful yung knight pag nasa gitna siya. kasi it occupies 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay? 8 dark squares. Compare to the knight that in the corner. Okay? Dalawa lang yung pwede niyang puntahan na dark square. So, mas maganda pag nasa center yung ating knight. The knight simply jumps over the pawn or any other pieces. So that is the only piece that can jump over the other pieces. Yung knight lang. Okay? So value ng knight ay 3 points. Strengths: the knight's special ability to hop over the other pieces makes it valuable in block positions. So kahit na na-block yung knight natin, ay pwede niyang mag-hop over. Okay? Hindi gaya ng ibang piyesa, gaya ng rook, bishop, queen. Pag naharangan na siya ng piyesa, ay malilimitahan na yung kanyang move. Weaknesses: knights are weak pieces when they are away from the center and have fewer possible squares to move to. So yun yung weaknesses pag yung knight ay nasa gilid. Kasi iilan lang yung square na pupuntahan niya. And the last piece is the pawn. Pawns are the foot soldiers of chess. In an ordinary move, a pawn simply moves one square up the board. Yun yung move ng pawn. One square. You can only move a pawn one square at a time unless it is still standing on its starting squares. In that special case, you can, if you want to, move it 2 squares forward. You can never move a pawn backwards. So pag yung pawn natin ay nasa starting position pa lang, pwede mo siyang i-move ng 1 or 2 squares. Ganon din sa block. Okay? 1 or 2 squares. Basta nasa starting position pa lang yung ating mga pawns. Okay? So, this is the boundary. Ito, sa gitna. Kasi hindi mo siya pwedeng mag-move ng 3 squares. So, hanggang dito ka lang. So, yan. Isa o dalawa. Basta, yung pawn natin ay nasa starting position pa lang. Pawns capture by moving one square forwards, but this time diagonally, to the left or the right. So, yung pag-capture ng pawn natin ay diagonal. Yan. Pwede capture yung knight or rook. Ganun din sa block. Pwede nyo capture yung pawn diagonally. Ito, hindi na siya pwedeng mag-move kasi nga na-block. Na-block siya ng pawn ng kalaban. So, the value of the pawn is 1 point. Strengths: pawns can act as a shield for the king early in the game. They are also very important in the endgame as they can promote to a queen if they reach the opponent's back rank. So, yun naman yung strength ng pawn. Pwede niyang i-shield yung king early in the game. And then, sa endgame, pwede siyang ma-promote to a rook, bishop, knight, or queen. Okay? Weaknesses: pawns can often be quite weak and feeble, especially if they become separated one another or if they become doubled. So, yun lang yung weaknesses ng pawn. Especially pag nagkaroon ng double pawn, tinatawag, yung pawn na nasa baba, hindi na siya maka-move pag hindi na nag-move yung nasa taas. Okay, so dyan po nagtatapos yung ating lesson sa ating first session. So, I hope na may natutunan kayo At kung may mga comments kayo, suggestions, ilagay lamang sa comment box, and then babasahin ko yan isa-isa. At kung nagustuhan mo naman aking video, kung may natutunan ka, kindly click the subscribe button and then hit na din yung notification bell para sa mas marami pang video. So muli, salamat sa pakikinig. Always stay safe and God bless.